All right, it's Dr. Betsy Greenleaf, and we're back for another episode. And I have with me today Dr. Irene Kopp, who is both a medical doctor and a doctor of chiropractic, where she has extensive training in both acupuncture, neuroplasticity, elite performance psychology, leadership, stress management, neurophysiological meditation, and resilience. Because of her own catastrophic burnout and near fatal experience, Dr. Irene's passionate about guiding others and shifting from stress to success and repairing the root cause of their burnout in unique ways. Thank you so much, Dr. Irene Kopp, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Betsy.
We were talking a little bit beforehand, and I kind of want to get back into this. I wish people had heard our conversation before, but how did you, what happened to you that made you want to help other people with burnout? And what was the moment that really changed your life?
Great question, Dr. Betsy. So I graduated first, I guess my first degree was, that's where I became a neurophysiological meditation instructor as part of that degree. The second degree was a doctor of chiropractic and then the acupuncture. And I say all this because I had it going on. I had it happening. I was determined to save the world, and I was accumulating the tools that I felt I needed to help the most people in the best way possible for me. And I was Superwoman. I was a single mom with two amazing sons. I ran a full-time practice. I was on the board of the PTA, the board of the Business Improvement Association. I ran a busy, like one of the biggest festivals in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. In other words, I was a going concern. I thought I was on top of the world. Until one day I was driving in northern Canada with my two young sons in the car, and I lost consciousness, and the road curved and I drove straight into a massive rock face. And we should have died. We should have died. I broke 10 bones, and that's the least of it. My 6-year-old developed PTSD from what he witnessed at the scene. And my 4-year-old son had a catastrophic brain injury with the lowest Glasgow Coma scale you can have at the time, and had to be airlifted to the nearest pediatric hospital 3 hours away for emergency life-saving surgery. And all of this was during the first SARS epidemic. So the C bug is the second. So this was the first. And I was in one hospital on SARS quarantine and couldn't see anyone, have visitors, couldn't see my sons. And my youngest son was in another hospital even after the emergency brain surgery. They kept him in an induced coma for a few weeks, to see if he was even going to live, let alone, so that was going on. I was getting reports every day from the school counselor, from an occupational therapist, you name it, telling me that my 6-year-old son was being, continuously suspended from school because he was having anger outbursts and throwing chairs and spitting at teachers and threatening to hurt himself. And I was literally going crazy with fear about, was my youngest son going to live? What was happening with my oldest son? Was he going to hurt himself? Literally, like that's what he was threatening to do. And it all culminated one day in after getting a particularly bad piece of news, and I'm lying flat, completely flat in my hospital bed because of my 10 broken bones, all alone, blubbering. Not a pretty sight, let me tell you. And I was literally just spiraling down in fear for my sons because I couldn't see them. And more importantly, I was I was overwhelmed with guilt and shame and remorse, and the thoughts that were racing through my head was like, what kind of mother am I to almost kill my sons? What kind of doctor was I not to have known? What kind of monster was I? And it truly was the lowest moment of my life, the loneliest moment of my life, where I truly wondered whether I even deserved to live, because my inner judge and jury had already tried and convicted me and hung me out to dry. And so I wondered whether I had any right to be their mother, whether I was a danger to them, whether I was an incompetent mother, whether I even deserved to live, as I said. And yet in that darkest moment, I recognized that I had a choice, that I could continue to spiral down and give up and say to my inner judge and jury and whoever else in the world was judging me that, yeah, you're right. I'm an awful mother. I don't deserve my children. Maybe I should be happy with supervised access, and give them, however it looks. Or I could recognize that I was simply a statistic, that based on my symptoms of losing consciousness, I knew that I was burned out and hadn't known it. Quite honestly, Dr. Betsy, I didn't want to know it, right? I was a powerhouse. I was on top of the world. I was determined to save the world. I didn't want to know. And I'm sure I ignored signs and symptoms. But be that as it may, I also recognized that it was my background, it was my programming and our society that set me up for failure, just as it does so many people in the world, right? That, programming that teaches us that we have to achieve to be worthy, that we have to go it alone, we have to prove that we've got what it takes, or we're weak and we're a failure, right? I also had a very traumatic childhood. So I learned, due to the abusive childhood, that I had to be perfect or don't show up at all, right? All of these factored into and set me up for burnout, pushing myself. And yes, there was the calling part of it, right? I have a special place in my heart for purpose-driven high achievers like you and me, Dr. Betsy, right? It's in other words, we do want to save the world. We feel that drive to help as many people as possible. And I felt like everyone needed me. My patients needed me. My family needed me. My community needed me. Everyone needed me. Until, guess what? That moment where I had to learn how to say no because I had no choice. And everyone went, oh, that's too bad. Next. Where's my next doctor? Except the very people that I almost lost and I hurt the most. They were the only ones that I was indispensable to. But we don't think about that when we are in that trance of programming, right? That leads us down into burnout, or as I call the catastrophic version of burnout, flameout syndrome, where you are at danger, risk for crashing and burning. And so I chose in that moment to use my clinical experience, my education, and now my personal experience to help as many people as I could recognize how much at risk they were for flameout syndrome, and then to guide them back into the best lives possible. And that if I could help even one person, one family with doing that, then I would be successful. And everything since has been finding whatever tools, whatever education I needed to be that guide, to be that light for people, to be that voice.
Oh my goodness. Dr. Irene, your story is amazing. And I want to come back to this after we take a commercial break.
80% of women will develop a pelvic health condition at some point in their lives. There is relief. There is hope. The Pelvic Floor Store, your resource for personal health.
And we're back with Dr. Irene Kopp, who just told us your story. I'm hoping that they don't, when they put this out on the air, they don't see that I was crying through your story, because I think really personally, I started panicking and thinking like that could have been me. Like that could be a lot of us. You know, you don't have to be a doctor. How many people are out there pushing themselves, pushing themselves? And so I want to ask you now, what do you tell people? How do you tell people so that they don't become that person that got into a car accident and almost lost their lives and their children's lives?
What I tell them is this, Dr. Betsy. In fact, I was interviewed by Authority magazine and on how I redefine success. And the ways I redefine success are, understanding that we need a paradigm shift around what success means and what successful means. So I teach that, every baby that comes into this world is already infinitely valuable. And they don't need to prove themselves. They don't lie there and go, oh, I need to do something special so that I get fed or get my nappy changed. Right? No, they just know, right? They expect, they understand that they are valuable and that they demand, sometimes very lustfully with their crying, to be looked after. But somewhere along the way, by mostly well-meaning power figures, parental figures, we are taught that we have to achieve to be worthy, right? And unfortunately, when I say well-meaning, like the people who raised us were broken too, right? That's what they were taught, right? So somewhere along the way, we lose that expectation, that knowledge that we are already valuable, that we have nothing to prove. And that really, so we are already successful. Success is simply a journey. That just as that baby knows that they are already infinitely valuable, they also recognize there's an innate drive to grow and to expand into your highest potential. A baby gets that. They're not just happy to stay on their back for the rest of their lives, cooing and looking cute and having somebody look after them. Let's face it, the human race would have been like extinct long ago if that were the case. No, a baby instinctively knows that they need to grow and expand. So they struggle and they, until they can roll over and then sit up and then start to crawl. And then they walk. Well, they try to walk and then they fall down. And then they get themselves back up and they fall down and they get themselves up and they fall down until they finally, through course correcting and continuing to try, they get the walking thing down. And then they do that again with the talking thing, right? They don't go, oh, I can't seem to get a handle on this walking thing. So I'm just going to give up. I'm obviously not meant to walk. I'll just crawl for the rest of my life. Oh, I can't speak in perfect sentences right now. So I better never talk, right? And yet, that's the genius of a baby. And yet, somewhere along the way, again, we're taught that we have to be perfect or don't show up like I was, or that we have to at least be successful on our first try, right? We allow this fear, so many fears, And I'm not judging or blaming here. It's a fact. That's part of the programming. The fear of failure to block us from growing and expanding into that beautiful being of that highest potential we are meant to be. And that's, again, we need to go back and look at the genius of a baby. They understand that it's important to fail. Failing is a necessary part of the learning process, of the success process, if you want to call it that, right? So really, we need to fail early, fail often, and fail forward. I think of it like, and I'm not the athlete, I admit, I'm going to sound dorky when I describe this, but say you're playing a basketball game, right? And you go and, you're at the opposite end, right? They just scored, unfortunately, and you're aiming for your hoop at the other end, right? You need to get there. Well, unfortunately, you're not allowed just to tuck it under like you do with football and carry it with you. That's traveling. That's against the rules. Even I know that, right? So what do you have to do? You got to dribble, which means the ball has to fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up. You may lose the ball. Somebody may steal the ball from you. You don't go, oh, well, that's the end of the game. Somebody stole the ball from me. Nope. You get the ball back, right? You may pass it to one of your teammates and they'll pass it back to you, right? So in other words, there's collaboration in there. And no matter what, you're continuously heading. You got your eye on the prize of that hoop, right? So no matter how many times you fall down, get back up, or you lose the ball, or you drop the ball, right? Or have to pass the ball away, right? You still got your eye on the prize. Otherwise, you may be sitting on the sidelines, on the bench, saying, as the coach is eyeing who he's going to put in next, and you're like, got your head down and go, don't call on me, don't call on me, don't call on me, don't call on me. I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, because I'm afraid, right? So I like to say, treat life like a game and understand that the challenges, the adversities, the setbacks, the falling down is all part of it. In life, we think we want everything right here, right now. And the reality is we don't really, because life would be really boring. It would be really, really boring. Challenges and adversity, whether we think we like them or not, is what makes it interesting. And it's also what helps hone us into that highest version of us. And so that's what I teach my high-powered clients, my purpose-driven, high-powered clients, is letting them know it's like, it's about the journey. Treat it like a game, have fun with it. Because the one thing I learned from almost dying is that life is not worth living if it's not fun. But here's the thing, I bring the fun. I choose to have fun. I choose to be happy no matter what is happening in my life. No matter what, no matter how bleak it looks, I tell myself everything is happening for me. Everything is happening for me, even if I don't understand how in the moment. So that is what I'm on a mission to teach the world, that they can actually be Superman, Superwoman. They just have to go about it in the right way, which is with self-love, self-value, self-respect, and self-care.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Irene, that is such a powerful message. I'm so excited that we had the opportunity to talk with you. Where can people get more of you? Because this is not the end. Like, once people have heard you, there's got to be more, So where can they find you?
So the easiest ways to reach me is our website, which is successshift.institute.com, successshiftInstitute.com. And for those of you who are wondering where you might be on the continuum, or how at risk you are for burnout or flame out syndrome, as I call the catastrophic level, I have a free comprehensive assessment. It's a long assessment. It's over 100 questions, and it's an enhancement and compilation of over 3 scientifically validated assessments that they can take to determine how at risk they are for flame out syndrome. And that one is DrIrene.life/flame out quiz, all one word.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. I really appreciate it. And I just want to
It's my
remind
pleasure.
people too to go check out Dr. Irene's website and also take a look and follow us, because we'll be back next week with another episode. So follow me on social media at Dr. Betsy Greenleaf in many different ways. Also find me at wytv7.org and drbetsygreenleaf.com. And we will see you again next week on another episode.